Welcome to dbForge Studio for SQL Server tutorials. In this video, we'll try to find out whether UNPIVOT is the best way to convert columns to rows in SQL Server. There are several methods to switch data from columns to rows or vice versa. Let's examine each method separately and take a look at their execution plans to review query performance. For this, we will use the functionality of dbForge Studio for SQL Server, which is an all-in-one IDE for SQL Server development, management, and administration. Suppose we have a table that contains data about the results of the games played by each player, and for better data analysis, we want to transpose or rotate the table data from rows to columns. So let us start. Previously, SQL Server did not offer an efficient way to convert columns to rows. Because of that, many users opted for multiple data retrievals from the same table with a different set of columns united under the union all statements. The crucial weakness of this method is multiple scans of the table. This happens because union all scans the table for every subquery, which considerably impacts the efficiency. That gets obvious when we look at the execution plan of the query. dbForge Studio for SQL Server comes with the Advanced Query Profiler functionality that allows for quick insight into query performance. Click Display Estimated Execution Plan to get the query plan without executing it, or enable Query Profiling mode and run the query to get the results instantly. Now let's move on to the second method. One of the fastest ways to convert columns to rows is to use the UNPIVOT operator, which was introduced in SQL Server in 2005. Let's simplify the previous query with the SQL UNPIVOT syntax. Let's have a look at the execution plan. Better, isn't it? Now we'll consider the possibility to transpose columns to rows with the value statement. As you can see, the execution plan is simpler as compared to UNPIVOT. Using dynamic SQL allows creating a general-purpose query for any table, on the condition that columns are not included in the primary key and have compatible data types. This method is not very fast because the automatic generation of the UNPIVOT query requires an additional scan of the system views and rows concatenation using the for_xml path. A smarter way to execute dynamic UNPIVOT is by doing a little trick with XML. In this query, SQL Server generates an XML string for each row. Then the name of the attribute and its value are parsed. In most cases, the use of XML results in a slower execution plan. Let's now compare the execution plans of the 5 methods we have just considered. We have to say that there is no obvious difference in the speed of execution of the UNPIVOT and values queries. These 2 methods are a good option for the cases when a simple transformation of columns into rows is needed. Let's consider another task, where we need to find the most frequent outcome of the game for each player. We'll try to perform this task with the help of the UNPIVOT statement. The execution plan shows that there is a bottleneck in multiple table scans and in the sorting operation, which is necessary for organizing the data rows. We can easily get rid of the multiple table scans. Check that! As you can see, we have eliminated multiple scans of the table, but the most resource-consuming operation, sorting, is still there. Let's try to use the value statement to solve this task. As we've expected, the execution plan looks simpler. However, the majority of the cost is still taken up by sorting. Let's try to avoid sorting by using the aggregation function. Now we check the execution plan, and what do we see there? We have managed to get rid of sorting. Let's sum up. When we need to carry out a simple conversion of columns to rows in SQL Server, it's better to use UNPIVOT or value operators. If after the conversion the received data rows should be used for aggregation or sorting, it's preferable to use the values command, which in most cases results in more efficient execution plans. For tables where different structure types might occur and the number of columns is unrestricted, it's recommended to use XML, which, unlike the dynamic SQL, can be used inside the table functions. Download a free trial of dbForge Studio for SQL Server and start eliminating performance bottlenecks today.